They said no human body could survive it. Not the frost that turned steel brittle. Not the wind that ripped warmth out of flesh like a thief tearing gold from a traveler. Not the endless white emptiness where even wolves refuse to walk. Yet in the far corners of Russia, people didn't just survive -40 degrees Celsius. They mastered it. And the strangest part? They did it using forgotten tricks, bizarre rituals, and ingenious survival hacks that modern science is only now beginning to understand. This is the story of those tricks. And of one American researcher who traveled deep into Siberia to uncover them. The man who chased the cold. Dr. Samuel Harlow had studied climate resilience in Iceland, Canada, and Alaska. But nothing prepared him for what he found in Siberia. When he stepped off the old Soviet train at the remote station of Oymyakon, he felt the air slice across his face like a razor dipped in liquid nitrogen. His eyelashes froze together. The leather strap on his bag stiffened instantly, like it wanted to snap. A local man beside him laughed gently. "First time." Samuel nodded, breath fogging before instantly freezing into tiny crystals. "Don't worry," the man said. "You Americans think cold is an enemy. Here, we make it a friend." His name was Mikhail Petrov, a retired geologist and one of the last living keepers of ancient Siberian winter lore. Samuel came here searching for scientific explanations. But what he found were stories, secrets, and methods so unbelievable that even modern researchers couldn't fully explain them. The first secret: breathing the snow. As they walked through the frozen village, Samuel noticed something strange. People stood outside in the open air, barefaced, breathing slowly and rhythmically, like monks meditating in the snow. Mikhail explained. "We teach our lungs to warm the air before it reaches the chest. If you breathe too fast, you die. If you breathe too shallow, you freeze. So you breathe like a hunter, deep, slow, steady." Samuel took notes, fascinated. This wasn't folklore, this was physiology, perfected over centuries. Mikhail continued. "You Americans wear heavy masks. But our ancestors taught us a trick. Let the cold enter your nose, not your mouth. The nose is a furnace for survival." It sounded simple. But Samuel would later learn that this technique reduces heat loss, prevents frostbite in airways, and conserves energy, something NASA scientists study today. The second secret: fat is armor. Inside a small wooden cabin warmed by an ancient iron stove, Samuel tasted something he never expected. A thick, creamy slab of salted pork known as salo. Mikhail grinned. "Eat this every morning, and you'll feel warm for hours. It's not food. It's armor." At first, Samuel didn't believe it. But within minutes, his body temperature rose. An internal fire lit inside him. Mikhail explained the science without using the word science. Fat burns slow. It is like placing a log in your stomach instead of paper. You stay warm longer. Even wolves know this. Later, Samuel confirmed, high-fat diets increase thermogenesis, internal heat production. Ancient Siberians understood metabolism better than many nutritionists today. The cloak of ice. But the strangest trick of all came the next morning. Before sunrise, Mikhail led Samuel outside. The temperature had dropped overnight to -47 degrees Celsius. A cold so sharp it made his eyes water instantly. Then Mikhail did something insane. He dipped his hands in a basin of icy water, lifted them into the air, and let them freeze. A thin layer of white frost wrapped around his skin. Samuel panicked. "What are you doing?" Mikhail only smiled. "Creating armor." The layer of frozen moisture actually protected his skin, preventing deeper frostbite, an old trick once used by hunters. Science calls it microinsulation. Locals called it the ice cloak. Fires that never die. That evening, Samuel visited the home of an elderly woman named Tatiana, rumored to be over 95 years old. She lived alone, surrounded by shelves of herbs, dried roots, and talismans. Her secret to surviving winters was simple. "The fire never goes out. Not once in my life," she said. "To let the fire die is to invite death inside the house." She showed Samuel the eternal embers, a technique where Siberians buried hot coals under ash, keeping them alive overnight. With only a few breaths of air in the morning, the fire erupted back to life. A prehistoric method, still used today. Where science ends and magic begins. As Samuel spent weeks in Siberia, he documented heavy checkmark breathing techniques that control heat loss. Heavy checkmark fat-based diets increasing thermogenesis. Heavy checkmark cold layer insulation techniques. Heavy checkmark ancient fire preservation methods. Heavy checkmark clothing made from fur that traps heat better than modern synthetics. Heavy checkmark rituals that lowered psychological fear of cold. But the most mysterious trick was still hidden. A technique only the oldest villagers knew. A technique whispered about, never written down. A technique that, according to legends, allowed a human to walk for hours in -40 degrees Celsius without shivering. And Samuel was about to learn it. The forbidden trick of the Yakut hunters. The wind had grown sharper. Every breath Samuel took felt like inhaling tiny shards of glass. His eyelashes glistened with frost. His boots crunched over snow that seemed older than time itself. Mikhail led him out of the village and into the endless expanse of white. The sun was a pale disk, barely rising above the horizon, barely giving warmth. "This is where the real lessons begin," Mikhail said. "Out here, the cold is the teacher. You must learn or you perish." Samuel shivered, trying to hide his fear. But deep inside, he felt a thrill. This was what he came for. The Yakut hunters. They arrived at a small camp where a group of Yakut hunters were preparing for the day. These men were legends in their own right, tall, lean, and impossibly resilient. Their eyes gleamed like wolves in the frozen landscape. Mikhail whispered, "Watch closely. This is the trick they do not teach outsiders." The hunters began a strange routine. 1. Cold immersion. They dipped their arms in icy water from a nearby river. 2. Controlled shaking. They performed a series of slow, almost dance-like movements. 3. Mental focus. They closed their eyes, whispering something Samuel could not hear. One hunter, a man named Alyosha, turned to Samuel. "You want to survive the heart of winter? You must first survive your mind." The power of the mind. Samuel realized that this was no ordinary survival technique. The Yakut hunters were training their minds to control their body's response to cold. Mikhail explained. "In the West, you think of hypothermia as a physical problem. Here, it is a mental one first. If your mind accepts death, your body follows. If your mind embraces the cold, your body learns to fight it. Samuel watched Alyosha stand barefoot in the snow, the temperature below -40°C. Minutes passed. His toes did not turn blue. He did not shiver. Instead, he seemed calm. Warm, even. The secret breath. Then came the most astonishing moment. Alyosha approached Samuel and said, "Breathe with me. Not like a man, like the river." Samuel followed. Inhale slowly, hold, exhale like a gentle stream. Repeat. Minutes later, Samuel felt an internal warmth he had never felt before. The cold was still there, but it no longer hurt. It became a companion. Mikhail nodded. This is the forbidden trick of the Yakut hunters. Controlled breathing and mental focus can raise your core temperature. Few outsiders ever learn it, and fewer survive the first attempt. Samuel realized this was not magic. It was the culmination of centuries of adaptation, body, mind, and environment in perfect harmony. A walk through the dead land. Mikhail led Samuel across the frozen tundra. The wind howled like a chorus of spirits. Snow drifts towered like frozen mountains. Suddenly, Samuel understood why these Siberians never feared winter. 1. They respected it. 2. They became part of it. 3. They mastered the tricks their ancestors passed down. For hours, Samuel walked, breathing, moving, and thinking in ways that would have killed an untrained person. He began to see beauty in the harshness, the snow sparkling like diamonds, the skeletal trees dancing in the wind, the endless horizon untouched by time. Survival science revealed. That night, by a fire barely larger than a candle, Samuel wrote notes furiously. He realized that every secret he had witnessed had a scientific explanation. Cold breathing slows heat loss, warms air in nasal passages. Fat-rich diet slow-burning fuel, stabilizes body heat. Ice layering microinsulation prevents deeper frostbite. Fire preservation controlled embers maintain life in extreme isolation. Mental control reduces panic, allowing core temperature to remain steady. But what science couldn't explain was the mind trick. The ancient belief that the cold could be embraced, not fought, that perhaps, for some, winter was not death, but a teacher. The first test. Mikhail turned to Samuel and said, gravely, "Tomorrow, you will try it yourself. The night walk. Alone. If you survive, you will understand winter as few outsiders ever will." Samuel felt a mixture of excitement and terror. He knew that failure meant frostbite, or worse. But he also knew he had come too far to turn back. He stared at the icy horizon, knowing that the lessons of the Yakut hunters would change not only his understanding of cold, but of human endurance itself. The night Samuel nearly froze to death. The night was darker than Samuel had ever seen. The sun had long disappeared behind a wall of clouds, leaving only a cold, silver glow across the snow. Every step he took on the frozen tundra threatened to sink him into a world that seemed untouched by life, or mercy. Mikhail had left him at the edge of the village. "You walk alone now," Mikhail had said. "Do not panic. Trust the cold, and yourself." Samuel's heart pounded. He knew the temperature had dropped below -45°C. His breath formed instant clouds, freezing mid-air before falling like snow. The wind stabbed at his cheeks, his nose, his ears, and his fingers, a relentless army of tiny knives. The first sign of danger. Minutes into the walk, Samuel realized he had made a mistake. He had focused on moving quickly, trying to generate heat. His mind raced, panic clawing at the edges of his thoughts. Then it happened, his fingers went numb. His toes tingled, a warning. His lips lost feeling. He remembered Mikhail's words. Do not fight the cold. Embrace it. Breathe with it. Become part of it. Samuel paused. He stopped struggling. He slowed his breathing, drawing long, measured inhales through his nose. He imagined his lungs as a furnace, warming the air before it entered his body. A strange warmth spread through his chest. Not much, but enough to give him hope. The internal fire. Walking in the frozen night, Samuel began to notice something incredible. His body, despite the icy assault, was generating heat from within. It was subtle at first, a tingle in his core. Then it spread, like a quiet fire stoked by focus and determination. Mikhail's forbidden Yakut trick was real. Control your mind, and your body will follow. Samuel slowed his pace even more, shifting his thoughts from fear to awe. He imagined the frost not as a killer, but as a teacher. He imagined himself as a wolf, a creature of the tundra, moving calmly, steadily, fearlessly. Minutes stretched into hours. His fingers slowly regained feeling. His toes, too. He realized he could walk in -40 degrees Celsius for hours without shivering, a feat he had once thought impossible. The frozen mirage. Suddenly, the world changed. Ahead, the snow shimmered unnaturally, like liquid glass. Trees bent under impossible weight, their branches frozen in mid-motion. It was as if the tundra itself were alive, watching him, testing him. Samuel froze, not from cold, but from astonishment. This was a world few humans had seen. Few had survived here. And yet, he walked. Step by step. Breath by breath. Each exhale, carefully controlled, allowed him to push the limits of human endurance. The elder appears. Out of the whiteness appeared a figure. An old woman, wrapped in furs that seemed older than time, her face carved with the wisdom of centuries. You walk alone, young man, she said, voice soft yet commanding. Many have died here because they did not listen. You have survived because you learned the first rule, respect the cold. Now I will teach you the second. Samuel followed her to a small, hidden shelter, a cabin no larger than a snowdrift. Inside, a small fire glowed, yet the room felt impossibly warm. The true secret, the elder whispered, is not what you wear, or eat, or even how you breathe. It is how you carry the cold inside yourself. Samuel tilted his head, confused. Carry it inside? He asked. Yes, she said. Do not fight it. Do not fear it. Let it flow through your veins. If you respect it, it will respect you. And you will walk where others freeze. The final lesson of survival. The elder handed him a small piece of fat. Eat this. Not for taste. Not for warmth alone. For armor. For energy. For connection to the ancestors who survived this land before you. Samuel ate. Warmth spread through his body, deeper than the fire beside him. He understood now why Siberians could survive what seemed impossible. It was a combination of body, mind, and spirit. Each trick, breathing, diet, ice layering, mental control, worked together. Together, they transformed ordinary humans into masters of the extreme. A new respect. By the time Samuel emerged from the cabin, the first rays of dawn had begun to color the snow pale pink. The cold still bit, but he felt no fear. He walked across the tundra with calm, deliberate steps, fully aware of every sensation, every nuance of the frozen world. He understood what the Yakut hunters and elders had known all along. The cold is not an enemy. The cold is a teacher. Master the mind, respect the body, and embrace the frost, and you will endure. Samuel knew he would never be the same again. And he had survived what almost no outsider could, a night alone in -40°C Siberia. The secret fire ritual. The dawn light revealed the frozen village in all its dark beauty. Icicles hung from rooftops like jagged crystal daggers, and smoke rose from every chimney, twisting into the pale sky. Samuel had survived the night. He was alive, but he was far from understanding all the secrets of Siberian survival. Mikhail led him to a central wooden house, larger than the others, built entirely from thick logs and animal hides. "This is where the real magic begins," Mikhail said, glancing at Samuel. "The fire that never dies. Eternal embers." Inside the house, a massive stove dominated the room. It was not an ordinary stove, but a marvel of engineering and tradition. The fire burned low, glowing red under a layer of ash. Mikhail explained. "This is the heart of the village. We call it the eternal embers. It has been burning for decades. Some say even a century. The fire never dies because it is fed carefully, every day, every night, even in the harshest storms." Samuel bent closer. He could feel the warmth radiating through the thick wooden walls, but he also noticed something strange. The fire seemed alive, pulsing as if it responded to the presence of people. "The secret," Mikhail continued, "is not the wood alone. It is the ritual. The timing. The rhythm. Each ember is placed with intention. Each breath of air is measured. The fire becomes more than warmth, it becomes protection." The night watch. That evening, Samuel witnessed the full ritual. Elders of the village gathered around the stove. They whispered prayers and chants that had been passed down for generations. With slow, deliberate movements, they rearranged coals, fed embers from hidden ashes, and ensured that no part of the fire died. Mikhail leaned over Samuel's shoulder. "Notice how they never let the flames roar. A fire too strong consumes itself. A fire controlled sustains life. This is how people survived months without seeing the sun." Homes of extreme heat. Samuel explored other homes in the village and realized that every building had a unique heating system. Floors were layered with compacted snow covered by thick boards. Snow acted as insulation. Roofs had multiple layers of thatch, wood, and fur to trap heat. Every house had an inner sleeping chamber insulated with hay, furs, and thick animal skins. Mikhail explained. The Siberians didn't just survive the cold outside. They built microclimates inside. Every home is a small, warm universe in the frozen void. Samuel marveled. Modern heaters could not compete with centuries of careful observation, trial, and error. Clothing as armor. Next, Samuel examined the villagers' clothing. Layers upon layers of fur, leather, and handwoven fabrics. But what caught his attention were the smallest details. Fur against the skin to trap warmth. Outer layers treated with animal fat to repel snow and wind. Boots insulated not just with felt, but with moss and wool. Mikhail smiled. Each item is a weapon against the cold. Siberians dress to fight winter, not just to stay comfortable. Every stitch, every layer, has a purpose. Samuel noted that even modern Arctic explorers rarely used such intricate combinations. Yet these villagers thrived without electricity, without modern insulation, without central heating. Food as fuel. In the evening, Samuel shared a meal with the elders. Thick soups made from root vegetables and fatty meats. Fermented fish, which provided both calories and essential vitamins. Small portions of fat-rich foods consumed throughout the day to maintain internal heat. Mikhail explained. Here, food is fuel. Not taste. Not luxury. Every bite is energy. Every sip is survival. We do not eat because we are hungry, we eat because we must endure. Samuel realized that the Siberian winter was a full-time, all-encompassing challenge. Every aspect of life, breathing, diet, clothing, fire, and mental focus, was engineered for survival. The philosophy of cold. That night, Samuel sat by the eternal embers, watching the flames dance. He understood that the Siberian survival's secrets were more than practical, they were philosophical. Respect the cold instead of fearing it. Control the mind instead of succumbing to panic. Use resources wisely instead of wasting them. Embrace the rhythm of life even in the harshest conditions. Mikhail's words echoed in his mind. Winter is not a curse. Winter is a teacher. Those who listen survive. Those who resist perish. And those who master it become legends. Samuel felt a deep shift within himself. He was no longer just a researcher. He had begun to think like the Siberians, to move like them, to respect the ice in a way he never imagined. The secret tricks Russians used to endure -40°C winters. Surviving the frozen extremes. The morning was sharp and blinding. Sunlight reflected off the snow like molten silver, forcing Samuel to squint. He had spent days learning the fundamentals, breathing, diet, fire, clothing, but now Mikhail was taking him to the outer limits of Siberian endurance. Today, Mikhail said, you will see how people survive when the world is nothing but ice. The snow shelters. They arrived at a field where small, cone-shaped mounds of snow dotted the landscape. These are our snow shelters, Mikhail explained. They look fragile, but inside they are warmer than the coldest home in the village. Samuel watched as Mikhail dug into the snow with a small shovel. He revealed a hollow chamber, barely 2 meters wide, with walls packed tight. Snow is an insulator, Mikhail said. It traps air. The outside may be -50°C, but inside, it is often just -5°C to 0°C. Samuel crawled in. The air was crisp but breathable. His body heat warmed the chamber quickly. This is how hunters survive nights in the tundra, alone, Mikhail said. No technology. No fuel. Just knowledge passed through generations. The ice bee. Inside one shelter, Samuel saw something even stranger, a bed made of ice. You will sleep on this, Samuel asked. Yes, Mikhail replied. With furs and moss, it is warmer than most Western beds. The ice keeps the cold away from your core in a paradoxical way. Heat rises, frost stays below. The body warms itself. Samuel lay down. To his surprise, he felt safe, even warm. The idea that ice could protect him from cold seemed impossible, yet it worked. Extreme mental endurance. As the day progressed, Samuel realized that the greatest survival tool was not food, clothing, or fire. It was the mind itself. Mikhail led him across open tundra, forcing him to face the howling winds and endless whiteness. Your mind must learn to be calm, Mikhail said. Panic is the enemy. Fear freezes the body faster than any temperature. Control your thoughts, and your body will follow. Samuel concentrated, focusing on slow breathing, internal warmth, and the rhythm of his steps. The cold was still brutal, but he no longer felt powerless. This is why Siberians survive where others die, Mikhail whispered. It is not luck. It is discipline of mind and body. The extreme ritual of endurance. That night, Samuel witnessed a ritual so extreme it bordered on unbelievable. A small group of men and women, fully exposed to the -50°C air, performed a series of movements and meditative chants while barefoot and barefaced. They stayed outside for hours, bodies perfectly still at times, moving at others, breathing slowly. This is the ritual of endurance, Mikhail said. It is taught only to the bravest. It trains the heart, the lungs, the nerves, and the mind. When completed, one can survive days outside without shelter. Samuel shivered, not from cold, but from awe. He realized that survival in Siberia was an art, honed over centuries, combining science, instinct, and ritual. Fermented foods and hidden fuel. In the next cabin, Samuel learned another secret, the fermented foods of Siberia. Fish and meats fermented for months, packed with calories and nutrients. Roots and berries preserved with natural sugars and fats. Even snow and ice were used to regulate fermentation and maintain nutrition. Every meal is medicine, Mikhail explained. It fuels the body for long journeys, extreme cold, and mental focus. Hunger and fatigue are the greatest threats, not frost alone. Samuel ate, feeling warmth spread through his core, ready for another night in the frozen expanse. The philosophy of survival. As the night drew near, Samuel understood the pattern of Siberian life. 1. Adaptation through body and diet. 2. Control through mind and ritual. 3. Protection through fire, shelter, and clothing. 4. Respect for the environment as a teacher, not an enemy. He realized that survival was not about fighting the cold. It was about becoming a part of it, mastering it, and using it as a tool for endurance. Samuel's awe grew. He had studied survival in Canada and Alaska, but this was something entirely different. Here, humans had co-evolved with the cold itself, turning impossible winters into life-sustaining challenges. Samuel faces the ultimate cold. The night was darker than ever. The wind howled like a pack of wolves across the endless tundra, carrying frozen particles that bit like needles. Samuel's heart pounded, not from fear, but anticipation. He had learned breathing techniques, fire rituals, fat-rich diets, snow shelters, and mental control. But now, Mikhail had one final test for him. Tonight, you walk fully exposed. No cabin. No furs beyond what you wear. You will endure the pure -50 degrees Celsius. Samuel swallowed hard. He knew this could push him to the edge, but he nodded. He was ready to master the cold once and for all. Stepping into the void. The first step was a shock. The frozen air burned his lungs. Every breath crystallized instantly, forming frost inside his nostrils and eyelashes. His fingers felt numb within seconds. He recalled the Yakut teachings. 1. Breathe slowly through the nose. 2. Focus your mind, calm your heart. 3. Imagine heat as a shield around your core. Samuel forced himself to follow the ritual, step by step. The cold no longer felt like an enemy. It became a force he could dance with, not flee from. The breath of fire. Minutes passed. Then Samuel felt the incredible effect of the forbidden Yakut breath technique. He inhaled deep through the nose, held the air, then exhaled slowly. His body tingled. His core warmth grew. He felt alive in a place where survival seemed impossible. Mikhail's voice echoed in his memory. Control the cold with your mind, and your body will obey. Samuel realized that this was no longer survival, it was transformation. The cold that had once terrified him now energized him. Mental and physical mastery. As the hours passed, Samuel's muscles ached, but he no longer shivered. The mental control, combined with fat-fueled energy and slow breathing, allowed him to endure hours in conditions that would kill most humans. He noticed patterns in the snow, subtle signs of animal life, and the rhythm of the wind. The tundra had become familiar, almost welcoming. He understood the full wisdom of the Siberians. Adaptation of body layers, fat, nutrition. Control of mind, meditation, focus, ritual. Integration with environment using ice, snow, and wind to survive. The village elder's secret. When Samuel finally returned to the village, exhausted but alive, he was met by the elder woman. "You have done what few outsiders ever will," she said. "You have embraced the cold, not fought it. Now, I will teach you the final secret, the rhythm of life in -50 degrees Celsius." She explained that survival was not just about resisting the cold physically, but living in harmony with it. 1. Sleep when the body signals, using snow shelters and insulated beds. 2. Move deliberately to conserve energy and maintain circulation. 3. Eat regularly, using fermented and fat-rich foods. 4. Mentally embrace the cold, visualizing warmth flowing through your veins. Samuel realized that all previous lessons culminated in this understanding. Winter was not a foe, it was a partner in endurance. Transformation. By the time Samuel had fully absorbed the teachings, he had changed. He no longer saw cold as fearsome. He had learned to carry warmth inside himself, even in the harshest conditions. Mikhail watched him quietly. "You are no longer just a visitor. You have walked the tundra as we do. You have learned what our ancestors have known for centuries." Samuel smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. He knew he could never unlearn these lessons. The Siberian winter had taught him what no laboratory or modern survival course ever could, the true art of endurance. The return and revelation. The train back to civilization rattled over frozen tracks, carrying Samuel through landscapes that seemed untouched by time. Outside, the tundra stretched endlessly, silver and white, silent and eternal. Inside, Samuel reflected on everything he had witnessed. He had survived -50 degrees Celsius. He had walked barefoot in snow shelters. He had eaten fermented meats and fat to fuel his body. He had embraced the cold in a way he never imagined possible. And yet, the most profound lesson was not physical. It was mental, spiritual, and philosophical. Lessons carried home. Back in his hotel in Yakutsk, Samuel wrote feverishly. Breathing techniques, slow, nasal, rhythmic, creating internal warmth. Dietary methods, high-fat, fermented, and nutrient-dense foods for long-lasting energy. Clothing and shelter, layered, insulated, and carefully designed to trap heat. Mental discipline, meditation, focus, and visualization to control the body's response. Fire rituals, eternal embers that sustain communities for months. He realized that these were not just tricks, they were a full survival philosophy, perfected over centuries by Siberian ancestors. This is science and tradition fused, he wrote. It is human ingenuity at its most astonishing. The cold is not an enemy. It is a teacher, a partner, a measure of our strength. Sharing the knowledge. Samuel returned to the United States with a notebook full of diagrams, survival hacks, and personal reflections. He shared it with scientists, extreme adventurers, and the public, emphasizing that Siberian methods were practical, psychological, and transformative. 1. Control your mind to control your body. 2. Fuel properly to sustain internal heat. 3. Respect your environment rather than fight it. 4. Use traditions and rituals to structure survival. People were amazed. He had taken what seemed impossible, enduring -50 degrees Celsius outdoors, and made it a lesson for all humans. The legacy of Siberian survival. Months later, Samuel returned to his lab, but the memory of the tundra never left him. He realized that humans were capable of far more than textbooks suggested. A night in -50 degrees Celsius no longer seemed impossible. Mind over matter, combined with diet, clothing, and shelter, could allow survival in conditions that once seemed fatal. And perhaps most importantly, the philosophy of respect and harmony with nature could teach humanity how to endure extremes, not just of cold, but of any challenge. He often thought of Mikhail, the elders, and the Yakut hunters. Their wisdom was not just survival, it was a way of life, a testament to human resilience. Reflection and awe. Samuel finally understood the truth. The Siberian winter is a teacher, the cold a master, and survival an art. Humans are not just passive creatures, they can learn, adapt, and even thrive in the harshest conditions imaginable. Endurance is not about brute strength. It is about harmony, body, mind, spirit, and environment. He smiled as he looked at the snow-covered peaks of the U.S., imagining the tundra he had left behind. The knowledge he carried was priceless, a reminder that human ingenuity and resilience could conquer even the coldest winters. The secret lives of the cold masters. Even now, deep in Siberia, the Yakut hunters and villagers follow the same rituals their ancestors perfected. Breathing with the frost. Eating fat and fermented foods. Wearing layers of fur like armor. Walking in snow shelters like masters of a frozen world. Living with a philosophy that turns deathly cold into a source of life. Samuel had witnessed it all, and survived. The secret tricks of Russia's coldest regions were not myths. They were real, practical, and awe-inspiring. And now, he shared them with the world. Lessons for modern survival. Samuel sat by the window of a small cabin, staring at the fading Siberian light. He had survived the impossible. He had walked in -50 degrees Celsius, embraced the snow, slept on ice beds, eaten fermented meats, and breathed with the cold. And yet, one question lingered. What can the rest of the world learn from this? Applying ancient wisdom today. He realized the secrets of Siberian survival were timeless and adaptable. 1. Controlled breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing warms the body and calms the mind. This principle can be applied to any extreme situation, from Arctic exploration to high-stress urban emergencies. 2. Nutrition as fuel. Fat-rich, nutrient-dense foods generate long-lasting energy. Modern survival kits and cold-weather diets can be optimized using this lesson. 3. Layered clothing and shelter. Using insulation wisely, fur, wool, layered fabrics, or synthetic equivalents, protects the body efficiently. Snow shelters and compact insulated tents follow the same principles. 4. Mental discipline. Fear accelerates frostbite and hypothermia. Visualization, meditation, and mental focus allow humans to survive beyond expected physical limits. 5. Respect for the environment. Siberians survived by reading the land, wind, snow, and temperature, rather than fighting them. Modern adventurers, mountaineers, and survivalists can adopt this principle anywhere. Extreme adaptation techniques. Samuel documented a few of the most extreme hacks he had witnessed. Snow shelters with ice beds. Air trapped in snow insulates the body, core warmth rises while frost stays below. Eternal embers and fire rituals. Maintaining a fire consistently prevents life-threatening drops in temperature. Fermented foods for long journeys. Preserved nutrients prevent calorie loss and energy dips. Micromental exercises. Combining rhythmic breathing, visualization, and meditation boosts endurance even in -50 degrees Celsius conditions. These weren't myths, they were scientifically sound techniques, honed over centuries. Why Siberians thrive where others fail. Samuel realized that Siberians had evolved a total survival philosophy. Body optimized through diet, clothing, and physical adaptations. Mind trained to overcome fear, focus attention, and harness internal warmth. Environment studied and respected to maximize safety and efficiency. They are not just surviving, they are thriving in conditions that would stop almost anyone else, Samuel noted. It was not luck. It was knowledge, discipline, and harmony with nature. Bringing the knowledge home. Returning to the United States, Samuel shared these lessons with scientists, adventurers, and educators. Extreme survival courses incorporated breathing and mental focus techniques. Nutritionists studied fat-rich and fermented diets for cold-weather performance. Designers applied layered insulation principles from Siberian clothing to modern extreme gear. And for Samuel personally, the lesson was profound. Human beings are capable of far more than we realize. The mind is as important as the body. Respect your environment, prepare wisely, and even the harshest conditions can be survived. Final reflection. Samuel often thought back to the Yakut hunters, Mikhail, and the village elders. He knew that their secrets were more than survival hacks, they were a philosophy of life. Cold is a teacher. Discipline is armor. Harmony with nature is strength. For anyone facing extreme conditions, whether in the Arctic, mountains, or urban survival scenarios, these lessons were timeless. Endurance is a combination of science, tradition, and willpower. Respect the cold, fuel your body, train your mind, and survive the impossible. The science and history behind Siberian survival. Even after weeks in Siberia, Samuel kept discovering new secrets. Some were practical. Some were cultural. And some were astonishing intersections of science, history, and human ingenuity. The Yakut people, masters of cold. The Yakut, or Sakha people, inhabit northeastern Siberia, one of the coldest inhabited places on Earth. Winters routinely reach -40 degrees Celsius to -60 degrees Celsius, with wind chills even lower. Despite these extremes, communities have thrived for centuries. Samuel noted that their survival was not accidental. It was culturally encoded. Stories and songs reinforced endurance principles. Rituals like breathing exercises and fire ceremonies trained the mind from childhood. Clothing, diet, and shelter were carefully refined over generations. These were living traditions combining biology, psychology, and social cohesion to overcome extreme cold. The science of the tricks. Samuel compared the traditional techniques with modern research. 1. Cold breathing, nasal inhalation. Warms the air before it reaches lungs. Reduces heat loss and prevents frostbite in respiratory tissues. 2. Fat-rich diets, salo and fermented meats. Slow-burning calories generate thermogenesis. Essential nutrients from fermented foods prevent deficiencies in isolated regions. 3. Snow shelters and ice beds. Snow traps air, acting as insulation. Ice beds paradoxically protect the body by allowing heat to rise toward the core. 4. Mental conditioning. Meditation and visualization control heart rate and circulation. Fear suppression reduces shivering and conserves energy. 5. Eternal embers. Maintaining a continuous fire ensures safe indoor temperatures and prevents hypothermia during long polar nights. Historical insights. Siberian winter survival was also rooted in history. Nomadic hunters relied on snow shelters and breathing techniques to hunt in extreme cold. Russian settlers adapted traditional methods to survive colonization of harsh regions. Scientific studies today recognize these techniques as early forms of biohacking, optimizing body, mind, and environment for extreme performance. Samuel realized that Siberian survival was both culture and science, perfected over centuries of trial, error, and observation. The modern applications. Samuel pondered how this knowledge could help people today. Outdoor explorers and extreme athletes could apply breathing and diet hacks for performance. Cold weather military training could incorporate snow shelter and fire rituals. Everyday people could benefit from understanding mind-over-body principles, nutrition, and layering strategies. Survival isn't just about equipment, Samuel wrote. It's about knowledge, preparation, and respect for the environment. Siberians didn't just endure, they thrived. The final takeaway. Samuel concluded that extreme cold was a teacher for humanity. 1. Respect nature. 2. Prepare your body with proper nutrition and clothing. 3. Train your mind to remain calm and focused. 4. Use rituals and routines to structure endurance. He realized that human resilience is astonishing, but it becomes extraordinary when combined with wisdom passed down for generations. And for Samuel, the cold was no longer a threat, it was a partner. Legacy of the Cold Masters. Siberian villagers continue their traditions today. From breathing exercises to eternal embers, from fat-rich diets to snow shelters, the secrets of -40 degrees Celsius winters remain alive. Samuel's journey revealed that survival is more than science or gear, it's philosophy, psychology, and practice in perfect harmony. And with that knowledge, anyone could learn, extreme cold is survivable, and even conquerable, when humans master mind, body, and environment together. Final test and ultimate secrets. The wind had become a living thing. It swept across the tundra with the sound of distant thunder, freezing anything it touched instantly. Samuel stood at the edge of the Siberian plains, feeling the weight of everything he had learned. "This is the last test," Mikhail said. "You will survive for 24 hours fully exposed, using only your mind, body, and skills." Samuel took a deep breath, recalling all the Yakut secrets. He knew that failure was not just discomfort, it could be fatal. The 24-hour survival. The first hours were brutal. Fingers and toes went numb despite careful layering. Snow pierced the gaps in his clothing. Each breath felt like inhaling needles. But Samuel applied every lesson. 1. Controlled breathing, slow, rhythmic, warming the lungs. 2. Mental visualization, imagining heat flowing through his body. 3. Micro-movements pacing, shifting weight, and flexing muscles to maintain circulation. 4. Nutritional strategy, small bites of high-fat rations spaced to sustain energy. By the 6th hour, something miraculous happened. He felt warmth despite the -50 degrees Celsius air. The tricks were working, the cold no longer controlled him. The hidden rituals. Mikhail then revealed the final, most secret ritual. Using a combination of breathing, chants, and hand gestures, Samuel had to align his body with the rhythm of the environment. The ritual was said to balance circulation, energy, and mental focus, allowing humans to survive what most scientists deemed impossible. Samuel followed carefully. Minutes later, he realized his heart rate slowed, core warmth increased, and his mind entered a state of clarity. The tundra felt less like a threat and more like a companion. Science meets tradition. Samuel reflected. Modern science confirms that controlled breathing and meditation can influence core temperature. Nutrition and fat intake optimize thermogenesis. Clothing and shelter design follow centuries of empirical wisdom. But the rituals and mindset, the mental mastery, were what made the impossible survival possible. The human body is extraordinary when the mind is trained, Samuel wrote. The Siberians have discovered this through centuries of trial, failure, and observation. Lessons for humanity. By the end of the 24-hour test, Samuel emerged alive, exhilarated, and transformed. He realized that extreme survival is as much about psychology as physiology. Every trick he had learned could be adapted for modern adventurers, explorers, and even emergency preparedness. Above all, he understood the philosophy behind Siberian endurance: respect, harmony, and awareness of nature. The legacy of the Cold Masters. Mikhail smiled. You have walked where few dare, survived what few endure, and learned what few understand. The cold is a teacher, a test, and a partner. Respect it, and it will respect you. Samuel returned home with knowledge few outsiders had ever witnessed. Extreme breathing techniques. Fat-rich diets and fermented foods. Layered insulation and snow shelters. Mental mastery, visualization, and ritual. Respect for the environment as a survival partner. And he knew this was not just survival, it was a way of life perfected over centuries in one of the coldest inhabited regions on Earth. Mastery of the cold. Samuel had endured -50 degrees Celsius, walked in snow shelters, eaten fermented meats, and applied forbidden Yakut rituals. He returned to civilization transformed, enlightened, and inspired. The Siberian secrets were no longer myths. They were living, practical, astonishing lessons in human endurance. Cold is not an enemy, Samuel concluded. It is a teacher. And those who listen can master the impossible. Secrets few outsiders ever witness. Even after surviving the ultimate cold, Samuel discovered that the Siberians had hidden techniques rarely shared with outsiders. Most people see only the surface, Mikhail said. The true survival methods are in the details, tiny, precise, and almost mystical. The ice-water endurance. Samuel witnessed a ritual called ice-water immersion, performed only by the bravest villagers. A shallow pool was carved from frozen river ice. Villagers would immerse their hands, face, or even upper body for minutes at a time. This trained the circulatory system, boosted adrenaline, and hardened the body against extreme cold. Samuel tried it, and though it was excruciating, he felt his heart rate stabilize, and internal warmth spike. The lesson was clear: controlled exposure builds resilience. The power of fermented beverages. Fermented drinks were not just food, they were medicines and survival aids. Yakut villagers consumed fermented mare's milk or fish-based drinks. These provided vitamins, probiotics, and slow-burning energy during long winter hunts. Samuel realized modern explorers could replicate the principle with high-fat, nutrient-rich liquids. Survival wasn't just about warmth. It was constant, intelligent fuel management. Extreme mental visualization. One of the most astonishing secrets Samuel observed. Villagers would visualize heat flowing through their extremities while exposed to blizzards. This wasn't superstition, science confirms mental focus can affect blood flow, peripheral temperature, and even immune response. Samuel practiced it under Mikhail's guidance, and for the first time, fingers and toes remained warm in -50 degrees Celsius winds. The art of micro-movements. In addition to meditation, Siberians had developed a system of tiny, subtle movements. Wiggle fingers and toes at intervals. Flex muscles under clothing without causing sweating. Shift weight subtly to redistribute warmth. These micro-movements maintain circulation without wasting energy, a method unknown to most modern survival courses. Lessons for extreme modern adventures. Samuel summarized the key takeaways for anyone daring to face extreme conditions. 1. Controlled breathing and visualization enhance core warmth. 2. Fat-rich, fermented foods and drinks provide sustained energy. 3. Layered insulation and snow shelters work better than heat alone. 4. Mental rituals and subtle movements protect circulation. 5. Exposure training in controlled increments builds resilience. He realized these lessons were universally applicable, from Arctic expeditions to winter sports, mountaineering, and even urban survival in extreme cold. The ultimate takeaway. Samuel reflected on the broader lesson. Siberians survive because they treat cold as a teacher, not a foe. Every ritual, diet, and technique is designed to harmonize with nature. Humans can endure almost anything when body, mind, and environment are in sync. He smiled, knowing that what he had learned was more than survival, it was a philosophy of human resilience. The grand finale, secrets for survival anywhere. Even after months in Siberia, Samuel discovered there was still more to learn. Mikhail called it, the invisible layer of survival, the secrets that rarely leave the tundra. Most outsiders think survival is about gear, Mikhail said. But the true mastery is timing, rhythm, and synergy with the cold. The rhythm of life in extreme cold. Samuel learned that survival depended on cycles. 1. Sleep cycles in snow shelters, time to conserve heat. 2. Meal cycles, small, frequent portions of fat-rich foods to maintain energy. 3. Movement cycles, micro-movements every hour to keep circulation active. These cycles ensured that energy, warmth, and alertness were never depleted, even in -50 degrees Celsius. Fire as a living entity. The eternal embers were more than warmth, they were a central life force. Villagers maintained small, continuous fires in multiple locations. The fire rituals created psychological comfort, as humans associate warmth with safety. Samuel realized modern camping and survival could benefit from continuous low flames rather than bursts of heat. Fire is life, Mikhail whispered. Treat it with respect, and it will protect you. Extreme clothing and insulation hacks. Samuel observed the most sophisticated layering techniques. Base layers of soft fur against the skin for insulation. Mid layers of wool or felt to trap air. Outer layers coated with animal fat to repel wind and snow. Specialized boots lined with moss, fur, and felt for maximum warmth and comfort. He realized these ancient tricks outperform many modern cold-weather suits, especially in long-term exposure. Mind as the ultimate weapon. The most extraordinary secret, mental endurance surpasses physical preparation. Villagers practiced meditation, chanting, and visualization daily. They imagined warmth spreading from their core to extremities. They treated cold as a companion and teacher, not an enemy. Samuel experienced it himself. After hours in extreme wind, he felt steady warmth in his toes and fingers, something he thought impossible. Lessons for modern humans. Samuel concluded that Siberian survival was fully adaptable to modern life. 1. Mental mastery, calm, focused, and rhythmical breathing. 2. Energy management, fat-rich, fermented foods at regular intervals. 3. Environmental synergy, using snow, ice, wind, and terrain intelligently. 4. Micro-movement and ritual, subtle actions that preserve circulation. 5. Respect and observation, never underestimate the power of nature. He realized these lessons applied to mountaineers, polar explorers, winter sports enthusiasts, and even urban survival in cold climates. The true philosophy. Samuel's final insight, Siberian winter survival was more than tricks, it was a philosophy of life. Cold is a teacher, not a curse. Rituals and discipline turn fear into mastery. Humans are capable of astonishing resilience when body, mind, and environment work in harmony. Samuel smiled, knowing he had discovered something priceless. The eternal human potential to endure the impossible. Legacy of the Cold Masters. Siberians continue their rituals, diets, and mental practices today. From breathing exercises to eternal embers, snow shelters, and micro-movements, the secrets of -40 degrees Celsius winters remain alive. Samuel returned home with knowledge few outsiders have ever witnessed, ready to share a philosophy that combines science, tradition, and human willpower. Survival is not just about enduring, it's about mastering life in harmony with nature. Samuel had faced the harshest cold on earth, walked with the Siberians through -50 degrees Celsius winds, and unlocked secrets of survival few outsiders could ever imagine. From eternal fires to snow shelters, fat-rich diets to mental mastery, every lesson revealed the extraordinary resilience of the human body and spirit. The Siberian winter was no longer a foe, it was a teacher, a guide, and a test of endurance. Next time, the journey continues, with even deeper secrets of survival and the art of thriving in the impossible.